Once more, everyone, to this conversation. As usual, this is, as many of you will know, this is a series, and this series is the State of the Nation series. This series is organized by Injinja Media TV in order to drive and deepen conversations around good governance, leadership questions to help leadership and opinion molders and to hold them to account. This is a weekly series. Our guests are selected across various strata of the society, which includes but not limited to politics, business leaders, community leaders, religious, and community mobilizers, and many more. My guest today, sadly, we are starting slightly behind schedule, but it's all good now. I do have my guest in the house, and I have the privilege today for a one on one conversation with Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Many of you know him. He is a political economist, an author, a lawyer, a former deputy CBN governor, and also presidential aspirant under the African Democratic Congress, the ADC. Professor Kingsley Moghalu, you are welcome to this one-on-one conversation this evening.
Thank you, Maazi. Thank you. Apologies for the logistical hitches. Yeah.
So now it's fine. Now we are here, and let's kick the ball rolling. Professor, in the last election, you contested under YPP. After the election, you moved party. Again, now you are under ADC.
Let me correct you. Okay. After the elections, I resigned from the YPP. Okay. 2 years, and I did not join any political party. I left politics for a while and focused on campaigning for electoral reform, working under or in collaboration with some civil society organizations, including mine, the one I founded, To Build a Nation, TBAN. 2 years later, in October 2021, I rejoined partisan politics and joined the ADC. So I just want to get the chronology and the timeline very clear.
That's obviously fine. Now, it actually brings me to the question now, which is, when you left politics for 2 years, you went out to do some, in your words, to see if you can influence some electoral reforms. Now, are you able to tell Nigerians in that last 2 years, and let's say in the last 3 years of that engagement, is there anything that you can, tell Nigerians today, brief Nigerians, that are, as a result of that engagement, progress that is being made?
Well, thank you. Obviously, I would not claim sole credit for whatever progress that has been made. That would be immodest. I was part of a large, network of civil society groups, even just ordinary citizens of Nigeria, diplomatic missions and foreign countries, all campaigning for a reform to the electoral laws to make voting and the counting of our votes much more transparent. Now, the biggest lesson I learned from the 2019 elections was that the votes simply did not count. If anybody tells you that I had 22,000 votes, truly, in that election, the person needs to see a psychiatrist if he or she actually believes that. That's not what happened. We just were not able to protect our votes effectively. And so this became a big issue for me. And I said, if I must continue in politics, I must fight, first of all, for a level playing field. If you don't have a level playing field and you haven't stolen Nigeria's money, like the politicians of the two major parties, the APC and the PDP, if you're not part of the corrupt cabals, then it's going to be very difficult for you to make progress if the laws remain the way they are. And so we felt that there must be, if not at the very least electronic voting, then at the very least electronic transmission of results. This campaign was hard fought. Eventually, it yielded results. You saw that the National Assembly did everything, or some members of the National Assembly did everything to frustrate the change of the electoral laws to facilitate electronic transmission of results. You saw it. We all saw it. I don't need to go into details. And so finally, the law was passed when the National Assembly saw that Nigerians were serious on this matter, and it was essentially like do or die. They finally approved the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. It went to President Buhari. He refused to sign it on the basis of mainly the direct primaries that were put into the new bill. It went back to the National Assembly, and they have modified it so that they gave parties options: direct primaries, indirect primaries, or consensus arrangements. Up till today, President Buhari has not signed the bill. The problem is that Nigeria's government is not, in fact, a government. It is a cabal. And the personal interests of certain people decide government actions 90%. There is no real transparency. There is no real objective interest of the Nigerian people that comes into many public policy decisions, especially on the matter of elections and voting in Nigeria. What excuse does President Buhari have, again, for delaying the signing? And I said it, that if President Buhari does not sign the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, he will be the biggest enemy of democracy in the history of Nigeria. And I stand by that statement. So we have made progress 60%, let's say. It's the signature that is 40%. So, because that's what makes the bill law. The new amendment must become law. And if President Buhari is now the obstacle, it means that we all must wake up again and confront him to do his constitutional duty. But we hear and we read that some people in his cabinet, in his close circles, are still not happy with the current bill for various reasons. The new bill talks about people having to resign if they want to contest elections. What we're seeing in this country today is that people sit in high public office conducting partisan politics with very sensitive public portfolios where they're supposed to be serving everybody in Nigeria. They're there furthering their own political interest in a partisan manner in very sensitive public offices. Is this a banana republic or what? That's just what I have to say.
Now, obviously, these, as you have laid them out, is the way they are. However, I would want to then ask you, what is your view if Buhari does not sign the electoral bill into law?
Well, first of all, it will be very clear that he is fundamentally an enemy of democracy because he is not fulfilling, what he swore an oath to do, which is to advance the welfare of the people of Nigeria. And part of the welfare is to create independent and transparent institutions that can guarantee that we're able to select the people who lead us and know that our votes count. That's the point. You're not going to do a military coup because he did not sign the bill. So sometimes people ask me questions like you've just asked me. What is the realistic answer to that? We have to continue to protest. The citizens have to come out. But it is constitutionally his power to do this. So we have to keep pressing, pressuring, cajoling.
Many of us, including myself, find this a little bit intriguing. Here we have a president who, one of the reasons he gave was the issue of direct primaries. This went back to the House of Assembly, and that was dealt with. After dealing with it, now there is no concrete reason why that is not being signed. But anyway, that is a discussion for another day. Now let's move on, Professor Here. In a recent tweet you made,
yes,
you mentioned that you basically narrated how Fela's late mother gave you a name that many people like me never knew you had, Ayodele, when you were born in Lagos. And sadly, the woman in question was killed by unknown soldiers.
Yes.
So rest in peace. Fast forward to today, over 45 years or there roundabout. Now in the East, where you come from, we hear of unknown gunmen everywhere. Are there parallels to draw from these two unknowns?
Yes, I think there are. It shows that we still have 45 years later. When Mrs. Ransom Kuti was killed by the soldiers who threw her down from a flight of stairs, and she broke her leg and eventually died, we were under military rule. Today, we're supposedly under a democracy, and we still have the phenomenon of unknown soldiers, unknown gunmen. How can we have a government in which people who commit acts of violence are unknown? They are unidentified. So when that happens, there are only two options, only two deductions you can make. It's either that the state has failed to secure its citizens, which is state failure. So there is violence all over the land, and the law enforcement authorities are not able to identify who is causing that violence or who is executing it. Or it is agents of the state who are committing those acts of violence. And they're being shielded by statements such as unknown, unknown this, unknown that. So these are only two deductions I can make from the parallels that very clearly exist between what happened to Fela's mother and what we see in Nigeria today, or what we've seen in recent times.
Okay, thank you very much on that. Then let's move on to my next question, which is going to be on the so much rumored third force. Everywhere you hear that the PDP is not fit for purpose, that the APC has failed on their promises, that there should be a third force sitting, or rather standing on the line to take over where these two gigantic political parties have failed. What is your view on the third force? Are you and will you be part of it if it comes into fruition?
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope to be part of the third force. I am part of its planning. I belong to a party that is one of the parties in the third force, trying to merge or to fuse into one mega party. I think the time has come for a third way in Nigerian politics. And this sometimes happens in the history of nations, of countries. The United Kingdom had the Tories and the Labour for many, many years. Eventually, then they had Lib Dem, the Liberal Democratic Party. France had the two major parties for many years. And then eventually along came Emmanuel Macron and his third party, or what do you want to call third force, En Marche. And they won the elections. In Mexico, the same thing happened. Two major parties for the past 80, 90 years until Feliz Lopez Obrador came along and founded a new third party, which eventually won the presidency. So one of the problems with Nigeria is that we don't understand. A lot of us don't take history seriously. If we do, we will understand that there is nothing particularly unique about Nigeria. Nigeria will suffer the same or go through the same historical dialectic that many other societies go through, one way or the other. Before now, it has not been possible. But the suffering in Nigeria today, people are feeding from dustbins. Many people, millions of young people have no jobs and no hope and no future. Electricity, 4,000 megawatts of electricity for 200 million people after 23 years of democracy led by the two big parties. So what are the results? Democracy has not delivered the dividends it promised. In fact, foundationally, we don't actually have a democracy. We have a shadow of democracy in Nigeria. We just discussed the electoral bill, which some cabals are sitting on, and we're supposed to be in a democracy. So that's the point I'm trying to make, that it looks like the time has come. Many people are now not happy with the APC and the PDP, and they're looking out for a third force that is national in character. And some political parties, one of which I belong to, the ADC, is trying to produce that alternative, the credible alternative that will actually lead Nigerians into a government that can actually govern. Nigeria's APC and PDP, they're very good at quote unquote winning elections, but they're a bandwagon to nowhere because they have not been able to govern.
Now, if I take you on what you've just said,
yes.
Do we have any country? Are there examples you can give us where third forces have actually won an election? If I take you on UK, for instance, when we had the Lib Dem.
Yes.
The closest the Lib Dem came was when they shared power with the Conservatives under David Cameron. They created what was known then as a deputy prime minister. And
yes.
the clerk who promised students, that they were not going to increase tuition fee. That was when people really hated the Lib Dem. Now, I
Yes.
am not aware where a third force has
I just
actually.
gave you the examples of France. Macron won. En Marche was a new third party. He won the elections. I just gave you the example of Mexico, where Feliz Lopez Obrador founded a new third party, breaking away from the two major parties in Mexico for decades. He won the
Yeah, but
elections.
sorry,
So there are
sorry, my
examples.
button here. But in those cases, there were
Yes,
ground and earth-shaking scenarios that led to this. But in the case of Nigeria, which will actually get me to the next question, which is, are Nigerians really tired of those governing them today, the PDP and the APC? Because
that's a very
without
good question.
Nigerians getting tired of them, the third force, in my view, is dead on arrival.
That's a very good question. And that's a question for Nigerians themselves to answer. You see, you can only want to serve your country. People can only be patriotic as they can be, but they cannot replace the role of the citizens and the followers in the democratic process. People have to understand that their lives matter, and they must act in a way that shows they believe their lives matter. If you keep complaining about insecurity, if you keep complaining about joblessness, if you keep complaining about no electricity, if you keep complaining about all sorts of things that make this country actually a very primitive place to live in, compared to many countries in the world, we were at the same situation when we became independent. I'm talking about Malaysia, the Singapores of this world, and many other countries that have gone far ahead of us. If you believe that you are God's child and you deserve a space under the sun, and you still come out in 2023 and vote for the APC or the PDP when you have a credible alternative, then the responsibility is on you. It's on you as a citizen who's voting like that. You may be voting like that because you are suffering from what we call the pedagogy of the oppressed. That is a system where oppression changes the thinking capacity of the people who are oppressed. And they begin to admire those who are oppressing them. They begin to defend them. They will rise up and fight for politicians on behalf of politicians who don't care about them. These politicians are only out for their stomach. They're only out for their bank accounts. But you see people fighting on the streets on behalf of their slave masters. So there's a lot of mental slavery that is going on. And part of our business as a third force, hopefully we come into existence as a new mega party, will be to educate Nigerians, and to educate them about their own power as citizens, and resist the what's going on, which is the disempowerment of the Nigerian mindset by traditional politicians. So this is what is going on. It's possible. It's not easy. Let us not fool ourselves. When people have been oppressed for so long, somebody gave me an example that if you put some animals in a cage for so many years, maybe initially they try to escape. They will raise their head and it will bump something. If you now remove the top of that thing and say fly away, they may just sit down there. They don't want to fly because they don't believe they can fly anymore. This is what is happening to Nigerians. But I hope, God forbid, I hope people will wake up. So it's a valid question as to whether or not Nigerians themselves are tired of the suffering and the dysfunction of Nigerian society. But I cannot answer that question. I'm only making myself, for example, available for leadership that can provide what Nigerians need as human beings that are God's creation. That's all I can do. I cannot be the candidate and be the voter.
Okay, let me flip the question somewhat.
Yes.
Assuming the PDP and the APC eventually gets to a point where there is a quagmire and you are called upon by any of those parties to be their presidential candidate, what will you do?
Well, you see, in politics, you have to keep options open. Let me be very clear. I am not an angel, and I'm not into the politics of sainthood. I have run an election once in this country as a candidate, and I have come to understand that in politics, you cannot let the perfect become the enemy of the good. One of the reasons I'm not in the APC and the PDP is because, I don't think the way the leadership of those associations do, obviously. Secondly, because of that, I don't think there's a realistic chance that they would allow someone like me to be their flag bearer. Now, if they were to have a brainwave and to say, well, come and be our flag bearer, you will consider the question at that time. You may say, sorry, I will not accept the invitation. Or you may have other considerations. So, but let the third force come up. If the third force comes up and is strong, there's no reason why I would not stick with it, because I am somebody who is known to be broadly consistent.
Okay, now, if we stay on this realm, now we come back to 2023.
Yes.
Many say that 2023 will decide the fate of Nigeria. Are you, or rather, do you belong to the school of thought that believe before we get it right in 2023, we must first restructure? Or can we wobble our way into 2023 and somewhat maybe after 2023 begin to look at how we get it right?
Well, you see, I'm a pragmatic person. I believe in constitutional restructuring, back to federalism. So, and I believe that that's the only basis on which Nigeria can prosper as a country and be stable. But I'm also practical enough to know two things. One, the person who is the president of Nigeria today is absolutely against constitutional restructuring. That's number one. Number two, the time is very short. We have only 12 months between now and the elections. For these two reasons, it does not seem the most strategic approach to me to keep insisting that we have to restructure Nigeria before we have the elections in 2023. I don't think that's really a practical approach. I think a more practical approach is that people who believe in the constitutional restructuring of Nigeria should back a candidate or candidates for various positions, not just for the presidency, but for the National Assembly and state houses of assembly, who also believe that Nigeria needs to be constitutionally restructured. So if those candidates win, then the battle becomes easier. So you can mobilize your numbers behind candidates who support or who share the view that Nigeria needs to be restructured. That's the more practical and strategic thing to do, in my view.
Well, then how is 2020, if that is then your view that, we can actually get there and those that are incoming would eventually do the job?
Yes.
It would then argue against the notion that 2023 is a deciding year for Nigeria. Then if we can wobble into 2023, we can also wobble into 2027, we can wobble into 2031.
Well, let's be quite clear. A country does not end in the sense that, in 2023, Nigeria will come to an end. When we say that 2023 will make or mar or determine Nigeria's future, that is decisive, here's what people like me mean. We have had failed leadership as a democratic nation or democratic country for 23, 24 years by next year. The quality of life in this country has become worse, not better, because we have politicians in the APC and the PDP. That's the fact. Nobody can controvert that fact. And I mean, in 5, 6 years ago, there were 70 million people living in extreme poverty. Today, there are 100 million people. So poverty is escalating in a geometric progression. These are facts and statistics. Nobody can argue with that. Even before the APC came to power, even the PDP, there was still a lot of poverty in Nigeria at that time. We had economic growth that was stronger, but there's a very big difference between economic growth and economic development. Can you see me? I can't see you anymore. Hello? Hello? Oh dear. Hello? Hello? I don't know what's going on. If anybody can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay, but I can't see Maazi anymore. I don't know if there's a problem. Okay, let me carry on. Okay, and you can see me. Can you see me? You can hear me, but can you see me?
Yes, we can see you and hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, I can't see Maazi anymore, so something might have gone wrong, but I'll carry on. So I was saying that even before the APC came to power, we still had a serious problem of poverty. So the problems did not begin today. They have just gotten far worse than they used to be. That's all. So in 2023, we have the chance to move in a different direction with a government that can actually govern. Or we can continue with our traditional politics where we recycle old and failed politicians who the only thing they know is the politics of rigging and winning elections, but they cannot govern. That's why the quality of life is bad today in this country. And the reason why does democracy exist? It is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. It is so that we elect people who can make our lives better than they used to be. But if you're electing people who are making your lives worse than they used to be, you have to ask yourself a question, whether you're doing the right thing. If you go back to the polls in 2023 and vote for those same people who have failed you, it might mean that perhaps you don't attach a lot of value to yourself. You worship the structures of big parties, but you do not think yourself you're important enough to demand good governance with your vote. That's what we mean when we say that 2023 will be decisive. It means we can continue, or it means we can move in a different direction. That's what we mean. And the problems we have today are so huge. Look at our debt problem, for example. We have a government under President Buhari that it's come up with a borrowing plan. Every year it borrows and borrows money externally. It borrows internally from the central bank. It borrows externally from foreign creditors just to keep afloat. So anybody who's going to be your president in 2023 better be somebody who has a very strong capacity and understanding of economic fundamentals and how to get Nigeria out of the economic crisis the country is facing. The crisis of foreign debt, the crisis of inflation, the crisis of fuel subsidy, and issues like that. And part of the way to solve these problems is constitutional restructuring, because the current political structure is part of the reason why Nigeria's economy is not performing. Hello? Wow. I don't know why this problem exists. I can't see MaaziEzeoke, so I can't hear his questions. And I cannot continue talking without a conversation.
I don't know, one of the admin is muting me. If you can stop muting me, I will appreciate it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Once more, my apologies. My internet went off. Hold on. So I'm rejoining you now. Okay, sorry, we are back. Prof, are you still there? My apologies. So, Prof. Okay. So, people, sorry, my apologies. The internet somewhat misbehaved. Prof, you may now kindly unmute yourself. Are you still there? I just need to, I think the Prof is on mute, so I just need to kindly alert him that we are back on. Sorry about that. Technology do sometimes happen to us.
Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you, Prof.
Sorry.
Sorry, we are back on. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. At some point, my internet, you know, Nigeria
Even
happened. Nigeria happened to my internet. So
okay.
I'll
Well, even where you are, these things can still happen. So it's terrible.
so let's now, Prof. Let's on this note. Normally,
Yes.
I reserve this. Normally I reserve this as the last part of this. But on this note, can we move to the street? And when I say let's move to the street, I mean, can we go to the street and speak the language of the street? Now, and that goes so, Prof.
Yes.
If to say Nigerians then come together, elect you say now you go be the president come
Yes.
2023. Waiting be that thing where you go do to Nigerians in 6 months, 1 year, and before your tenure ends in 4 years.
The first thing we're supposed to do now to appoint the people who go do the job. Not be only one person they do the job. Not be only the president. So we first get to set up the right kind of team. Waiting what they call dream team. Now you'll be the first guarantor of your success. And that happens within 6 months. Well, actually within 1 month, my team will be complete. I won't take 6 months to form a cabinet.
Prof, why are you going to talk about 1 month, 6 months? When you win election, you have 3 months to gather the team. So suddenly we go wait extra 1 month.
No, wait. When I say 1 month, immediately you are sworn in, you announce your team. Many members of the team will go through confirmation process in the National Assembly. That's what I mean. You will announce the team. Those who will start work immediately begin to work. Those who have to be confirmed, like the ministers, that might take a week or it might take 2 weeks. Let's be realistic. I mean, after that, you're good to go. But from the time of your winning the election until the time you're sworn in, that's when you have a proper transition team that helps you shape the government so that you hit the ground running on day one. On the day I'm sworn in, I'm announcing the secretary to the government, you're announcing the chief of staff, you're announcing the national security advisor. Within 2 days or 3 days, you're announcing your ministers and send them to the House or to the Senate.
Okay, so as it don't be now this those of us where they push barrow, where be keke, where they like to they use keke, will talk say this thing where you talk now, how you go take affect us, how you go take put food for our table, how you go take make sure say
It good say you don't talk about keke people, because keke na pep and Okada drivers for the 19 northern states of this country don't endorse me to be president. So it good say you remember them.
As we they talk like that, but in concrete terms, I know why they ask this, because this one now
Yes.
na street yan so. In concrete terms, wouldn't be that thing. You go remove the subsidy, abi you go bring back the subsidy, abi you go give them subvention, abi you go give them loan. Waiting be that thing what if you do for them.
Make I tell you something, Maazi. Many people they expect miracle. Anybody where they expect miracle from the next president of Nigeria, no, they serious. This country don't war. So the first thing we're supposed to do, I don't tell you the first thing we're supposed to do, now to get the right team together. That's the job number one. You talk about subsidy. Suppose come in, just begin do remove subsidy or return subsidy. Subsidy go there because Buhari government said they don't want to remove it, right? So when you come as president, you study the situation and you make a decision. If you're removing subsidy, what is the alternative you're giving to citizens to help them to absorb the economic pain of paying for higher petrol prices? That's what you have to put in place. And if that is what you decide to do, all of that should happen within 1 year. So there are so many things. The first thing I got tackle, the electricity problem. Electricity. That's my job number one. Once I form my team, the next thing be how we suppose they get light 18, 24 hours a day.
remember that thing as Oyibo dey talk am. Na they say na the test of the pudding until when you don't reach your mouth, enter tongue.
Yes, therefore,
Because as it be, it don't dey sound like when Bola Ige, when he was telling us how they can fix electricity. Even now, the Minister of Power without power, told us that electricity can be fixed in 6 months. I don't want to. I don't want to
I
ask
have not
you
told
time
you
now.
that I'll fix electricity in 6 months. I said the first thing we will begin to tackle is the matter of electricity. The next thing we have to tackle is the matter of nationhood. In your appointments, are you being fair to every part of Nigeria? How can you repair the broken trust between the people of Nigeria and their government? That's something you can restore within 6 months, easily.
So
because it will be fair and you will be transparent.
now let me come to this, because obviously there are things that go wrong that
Yes.
these things are lessons for the incoming government to take. And
Yes.
that will be there are things this government is not doing right. What are just tell Nigerians three key things that if you come in, this will be the key things you will do that this government is not getting it right in order for them to look your way.
Good. One, security. Massive reform of the security establishment to put in place people who can actually help secure this country. That's number one. If you're traveling on the road and bandits take you, anything else you're doing is a joke. You have to appoint the right kind of people. Three, you have to focus on the electricity problem in Nigeria. Four, you have to focus on the education system. These are four priorities. Absolutely very important. You see, many people don't understand why Nigeria has the problems it has today. We don't have a nation. We have a broken country. My job as president is immediately I'm being sworn in to begin to restore the trust of people in the government and governance. The first way you do that is that you appoint a competent team. The second way you do that is that you are fair and transparent, fair to every part of the country in setting up your team and setting up your government. No nepotism, no nonsense cabalism. No, that's what you do. It may look like an intangible thing. It is not telling you I'll build this road or I'll build this thing, but it is the foundation. Without it, you cannot progress on the other things. The next concrete things you then move on are things like electricity, the education system, and jobs. How do you create jobs for young people in this country? Immediately I'm sworn in, we're announcing the 1 trillion naira venture capital fund, which will finance young people to start new businesses, train them with new skills, and finance innovation. That will happen immediately I'm sworn in as president. And that's how you begin to tackle the problem of jobs, because it is the private sector that will create jobs. That fund will be run by the private sector. It will not be run by the government. It's not going to be like all this SIP and all these kinds of things that you're giving out billions and nobody knows the list of who's getting that money.
Okay, so obviously that is as clear as daylight. Now, having said all these things, people are still asking, even in this room, what is your plan for youth empowerment?
Yes, the first plan, I have a 7-point plan for young people in Nigeria. The first part of it is that we will provide temporary unemployment support for young people who have no jobs coming out of school for 6 months. Maybe up to a year, but minimum of 6 months. But only on the condition that you go through a skills training program that will be financed by the Venture Capital Fund. That way, we're equipping you to take care of yourself. We're giving you skills to create jobs for yourself. So that's number one. Number two, we have to reform the police. Police brutality is what brought about EndSARS. The unaccountability of the police is what expanded the Boko Haram problem. Mohammed Yusuf was shot by the police. And that's when Boko Haram went nuclear. We often forget the interconnection between these problems. We cannot have people who are not held to account for extrajudicial executions. 3, we're going to have to begin to reform the education system, because the education system is what creates young people with the skills to create a better future and a booming economy. We have to move the curriculum towards technology and all those kinds of things. 4, we're going to mentor the youth. We're going to take the youth through a formal mentorship system. 5, we will memorialize End SARS. So these are and so many other things. These are some of the things we're going to do to empower our young people. Because the reason I'm in politics is because of the youth, actually. Let me just be very frank about it. I'm in politics because I see 67% of our population having no future. And I want my children to have a future because they're Nigerians. So there's also a certain amount of enlightened self-interest.
You talked about building memorial for NSAS.
Yes.
Now, many would then argue, there are other areas that, good memorials could be built for by the state. Some have already argued that, like the Asaba massacre that you have, no one, probably not at the federal level, that the way ought to, aside those victims speaking about them. Are there, beyond NSAS, areas you think, if elected as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that you could actually unite Nigeria or
Yes.
use them to bring Nigerians together to heal the wounds of the past?
Absolutely. And that starts with how we handle history. History is a great nation builder, and we will use history to build a real nation in Nigeria. We're not going to allow the politicization of history. We will bring about a truth and reconciliation exercise through the various states. We're going to get people to understand that our disunity, our divisions are artificially created by politicians. Yes, we have different cultures. Yes, we have different languages. Yes, we have different backgrounds. But there are many multi-ethnic nations that have been successful. And if we all decide that we must have pure ethnic nations, there will be chaos in the world, because there are very few countries that are really homogeneous in terms of ethnicity. Very few. So I'm going to be working on the matter of history. It is a very important matter, how we handle history.
Prof, sorry, I think we are losing your audio. I don't know if you have a Bluetooth connected.
So yeah, somebody's telling me, let me stop the call.
Okay, so I think while we are waiting for Prof to sort that out, because we are losing his audio, we can't hear him very clearly. Now, we will be taking questions from the audience. So 2 options. Either you have 30 seconds to ask your questions, you will be called upon, you raise your hand, you will be called upon. I think I can see that Henry already is raising up his hand, and Henry will be called upon to ask his question. And I can see that Amaka as well is raising up his hand. Now, sorry, Amaka is raising up her hand. Sorry, pardon me on that. So, once Prof is ready, we will bring him back again to, take our questions. Prof, are you ready? Now, may you kindly unmute yourself if you're ready, please.
Yes. Okay.
I think it's still not, I don't know what's happened. Was it on speaker or connected to Bluetooth? The noise is still...
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead, Prof.
Yeah, but I can, you are coming in very muted. Your sound is low.
Oh, I think you can put it on speaker.
Okay, let me put it on speaker.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Hi. Oh my Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now, Prof.
Great, great. Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, are you asking me questions or what?
Okay, now in this case, what we're going to do, because obviously you've taken the last question, what we're going to do now is to take questions from the audience. And I'm
Yeah.
going to allow Henry. Henry, may you kindly ask your question? Can you mute yourself and ask your question? 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Maazi. Thank you for putting this platform together. It's been a very great initiative from your side. Yeah, you see, the dear Prof, just I've been listening to your laudable ideas you've got, but I'm a bit skeptical because you've been in CBN, and
Yes.
I just wanted to know, whilst in CBN, how many people, PEP, the political exposed persons, were prosecuted under your oversight of the money laundering protocols of Nigeria?
I'm sorry.
Okay,
You're
thank you very
asking
much. Hold on,
completely.
Prof, please hold on. Can we jot these questions down, please? Because there are an avalanche of questions here that we will be taking. Thank you very much, Henry. And
Thank you.
having
Yeah.
said that,
No. Maazi,
yes, you want to
please,
take
if
this?
you allow me.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that question does not arise. A central banker is not, a central banker is a central banker. We are managing the monetary aspects of the economy, the banking reforms, and all of that. So it looks like my brother is asking about political accountability. Is that the function of the central bank? Of course, it's not.
I believe what he meant was within the CBN, or probably there are people who are politically exposed within CBN. And
No, not in my time. Not in my time. I'm sorry. Not in my time. I mean, there were people who were prosecuted for banking fraud. 3 bank MDs have been convicted up
you know what?
today, as of today.
Henry, I'll bring you back to make a clarification to your question. Kindly unmute and make a clarification to your question, please.
Yes, right, Prof. It was actually in your time. You see, as a CBN banker,
Yeah.
You have the oversight over banking compliance or banks compliance on PEP. On money, you see, PEP. No. You see, PEP. Yes, PEP is a protocol. No, yes, political exposed person is part of the protocols that makes up your money laundering laws. So it is left for you. It is left for you as a CBN governor to ensure that the protocols on PEP is being enforced and complied by banks in Nigeria.
Okay.
But obviously, people like Kyari, for example, now do not even comply with most of these PEP protocols. That is why banks can operate. They can operate a lot of dubious accounts and
I get the question now. I understand.
Henry, thank you very much for that, and thank you for the clarification. So, Prof, over to you.
Okay, all right. Now, when I was deputy governor of the central bank, we put in place a lot of measures that made money laundering difficult for people. We were very proactive and preventive in our approach to money laundering. We introduced cashless. We introduced, POS. We introduced all sorts of payment systems reforms. Somebody met my in-laws in London and told them to go and warn me that he cannot give bribe with POS. What am I doing at the central bank? Why am I causing trouble? So that's one. We put in place a lot of protocols for anti-money laundering, and banks had to report, and many, I believe that most people abided by those protocols. You're talking about PEP, politically exposed persons. The fact that somebody is politically exposed does not make that person a criminal. Let's be very clear. You can only be prosecuted if you breach a law or a regulation. And we were very strict. People who committed crimes in the financial sector, we prosecuted Mrs. Ibru. We prosecuted Okemosu, I think it was. We prosecuted another guy, the guy at Bank PHP. I'm forgetting his name now. We prosecuted, I think, Akimbola. So we prosecuted people who committed banking fraud, clearly. But the fact that somebody is a politically exposed person, if that person stays within the bounds of our rules and regulations in the banking system, you don't go and prosecute the person just because the person is a politician. It's not a crime to be a politician. That's what I'm saying, except you have another question. But, we have to, you see, we know there's a lot of corruption in Nigeria. And we know that our traditional politicians, many of them are corrupt. But as a central bank, we are not a political institution, at least in my time, or I don't know about central bank of today. Central bank of my time was not into politics.
Thank you very much, Prof. Let me take another round of questions here, but in this time around, I'll lump them together so that we don't do them one after another to save time. Amako Yangwa, may you kindly unmute yourself. Amako, go ahead and kindly unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening, Maazi.
Yes.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, Prof, good evening.
Yes.
I've listened to everything that you said, and I think I will also want to go back to what I will tell you in fact, you see, Nigeria, everybody in Nigeria know what our problem is. To be sincere, we know our problems. Everybody knows. But what is the solution? We have gotten to a point that we are no longer guaranteed under a right leadership. Everybody is saying and talking and complaining about this thing we call a constitution. That constitution is the problem is amongst the problems we have in Nigeria. And again, I need to tell you something. You say we need to cut down the size of governance in Nigeria.
Yes, absolutely.
You need to, if you do not cut down the size of governance in Nigeria, even if you make the Pope the president of Nigeria, corruption will be more than it is today. The public institution, the way they are public institution, we have a lot of things. Maazi, just few seconds. You see, the way our public institutions are created, the way it's made, and the way it's structured at the moment, they are, is a convergence for evidently weak structures that we are seeing. We have a lot. That thing is a problem. If we do not work on and cut down the size of governance in Nigeria, nothing is going to work.
Amaka, thank you very much for your contribution. So let me take the next person. Chinelo, kindly unmute yourself, please. Chinelo, kindly unmute yourself. Are you there? Okay, so I think Chinelo is not ready. Stephen, please, can you unmute yourself?
Right, thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, Prof, good evening, sir, and I'm very happy hearing you today. My question actually borders around what Amaka was talking about. The cost of leadership in Nigeria is humongous.
30 seconds, please.
Yeah, what goes to National Assembly and all of that, the cake sharing arrangement. My question is, how would you go about, making sure that we can deal with this? Because if it's not dealt with, nothing will happen. Another thing is, we know that the Constitution is the problem. How will you go about this constitutional reform? What are your plans? Policing in Nigeria is massive. It's a massive trouble. What are your plans for police reform? What are you going to do about police reform? Let me put it that way. And finally, we know that Nigeria is ruled by cabals. These are major, massive problems. How do we intend to tackle cabal? I don't know what to call it. Is it cabalism or whatever in Nigeria?
Anyway,
it is
thank you very much, Stephen.
And without that, nothing can go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I would want to take Rudolph Okonkwo, Dr. Damages. I hope he doesn't damage something this evening. So,
hello, Prof. Nice to have you here. I'm impressed by two things. One is that you were sweating on air, and I think this is the first time a Nigerian politician is sweating on air. So that tells me you take this seriously. The second one is that you got the endorsement of keke drivers. Wonderful. I think it's a big achievement. So this is what I think you should do next. Do what Obama did in 2008. Go out there on the street, leave the social media, leave all these people you talk to on social media. Go on the street and test this measure of your acceptance and talk to people on the street, because all this is you're talking on air, on social media, we understand it, but we are not. I'm not voting. I'm here in America. Those people watching you, they won't vote. Take it to the street.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you. Can I respond?
You didn't do much damages anyway, as expected. But again,
Yeah.
you
First of
have
all,
3 questions now. You can respond to them.
Yeah, let me go back to Dr. Damages. I was sweating because of the intense physical inconvenience I was going through because of the absence of electricity. I wasn't sweating because of this program. So let me be very, very clear. As soon as the air conditioner came back, the sweating was gone. And the light came back, and you can see me very clearly. So just to be on a humorous side, to be very clear. But let me also address the question you raised about taking it to the street. And that brings me to what Akin Fapohunda wrote in the thing that I saw. When will I stop being a lone ranger and become part of a team? I disagree profoundly with that question. I am not a lone ranger. I am not an independent candidate. I'm a member of a political party. That political party is currently building an alliance with several other political. How does that make me a lone ranger? People just like to talk and say, things they I don't know, that are so divorced from reality. I'm not a lone ranger. I belong to a political party, just like any other person running for president. That party is now trying to create a merger or a fusion to create a third force. How is that being a lone ranger? Please, let's not ask questions that are just meant to provoke, but I'm not backed up by reality. Back to I have a team I'm working with. I have a team, Moghalu for Nigeria, and it has members. It has an executive council. We have structures now in every state of the federation. People want you to go on the streets, like Dr. Damages. Have campaigns begun officially in this country? Should I break the law? What everybody is doing is to position themselves. People are still declaring. And some people want me to start a political campaign when parties have not even selected their candidates. I'm not a candidate, I'm an aspirant at this point. So let's not let our expectations get ahead of us. There will be time for manifestos. There will be time for campaigns, the official campaigns around the country. What everybody is doing now is positioning. No party has selected a candidate. So people should not, I find that when you are a candidate of transformation, people create hurdles for you in their minds that are so totally unrealistic. And they don't do the same for the people who have broken this country. They will not invite Atiku or Tinubu to these types of shows. If you do, they won't come. And you will not hold them accountable. But you want to create, all kinds of obstacles that Moghalu has to climb to prove to you that he is a credible candidate. It's the pedagogy of the oppressed that is at work. And let us move away from that. Don't have expectations of me that are either not legally founded or not realistic. I'm just a candidate like any other person. And if you ask me a question, I'll answer you. But you can't expect me to be in the streets of Nigeria 24/7 just to show you that I'm serious. No, there's a time for that.
Prof, many people watching you now are still those that you will still meet on the street. But can we come back to 2 critical questions asked here, which is the Constitution and the size of governance? I think that's Amaka and Stephen.
I'm coming back to that. And it's a very important question. By the way, on the matter of the streets, I'm in my village. I'm here with my people. They are the streets. I'm going for meetings of Umunna. Yesterday, I was at a burial in Newi, and I was dancing in the public, and everybody was cheering. So please, I don't want to be held to impossible standards. Let's come back to the question of saving government expenditures. I totally agree with Amaka and other people who raised that matter. And as president of Nigeria, no question in my mind that I will cut down the size of government and create massive savings. 60% of the corruption that takes place in Nigeria is legal. It happens through the budget. When the budget is so padded and so bloated, you have legalized corruption. Once the National Assembly approves that budget, what can you say about it? But as president, what will I do? I will subject every budget proposal to a forensic audit before I take it to the National Assembly. That way I'm satisfied. If you go there and the National Assembly wants to add things to the budget, which actually is unconstitutional, appropriation is appropriating what has been presented by the executive. The National Assembly has no business inserting items into the budget. It's only in Nigeria you see these kinds of constitutional abnormalities taking place. So yes, Nigeria is so we will reduce, we're going to have a public service reform. Steve Oransanye's report, who has looked at it, who has implemented it? I will, to cut down the number of all these government agencies. We're not going to kick people out onto the streets. No, we will move them to more productive types of things. We will give them packages that can allow them to start their own new business. But we are going to cut the size of the public service of this country because it is bloated and it's unproductive. I totally agree with that. Somebody talked about cabals and just the whole entitlement structure of the political class. That's why we need restructuring. The federal government is too heavy. If you restructure in a proper federalism, then you're not going to have this problem because a lot of these things will disappear. They will have to go away. Different states or regions will now have to manage themselves. And the federal structure will just be a skeletal services, central bank, foreign, don't need that much at the federal level in a proper federal system. So yes, there's a constitutional approach, there's a management approach to the size of government, but I will cut down the size of government. I will massively increase government savings. But in addition to increasing savings, which I've just given you one practical example, if you know what you can save by auditing the federal budget before it is approved, you'll be surprised. And a lot of those things can go into setting up the 1 trillion naira venture capital fund that somebody was asking me about. Oh, where are you going to get the money? Any good idea you come up with, Nigerians will tell you, where are you going to get the money? Leave it to me, and I will explain to you where I'll get the money. We are going to, how many people are paying tax in this country? There are 70 million people who are supposed to pay tax. Only 10 million people do. I will reduce taxes, not overtaxing the same people over and over again, but we will make sure that everybody, at least 40 to 50 million people, pay something tiny. You generate far more revenues that way. I will do, as a president, an audit of phones. Every man and his uncle, every woman and her aunt in this country have a cell phone. We will use it to do an audit of livelihoods. What are you earning? We can cut your SIM if you don't show up to explain whether you're paying taxes or not. That's how a serious government operates. So we have the ideas and we have the practical ways to make them happen.
I hope those listening to you now wouldn't think, wow, he's coming to cut us from where we are.
No, I'm not coming to impose high taxes. Let me be very clear.
Okay, but Prof, please, if you may, in 1 minute, you still have...
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Prof, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I was saying that I'm not coming to tax Nigerians.
Yes,
no, but there's going to be a new social contract. Yes.
I had that
Good.
part. Now, what I wanted to, anyway, I'll leave that for now. Let me take. Sorry, what I wanted to say is, in 1 minute, could you please address the issue of constitution and the police, please?
Constitution
and the police. I think
the police.
Stephen raised that issue here. Maybe state police.
Oh yes, of course, very important. We have to, part of federalism. Nigeria is the only country with a federal constitution where the police is in the exclusive legislative list. There's no other country that is a proper federation, not the United States, not Switzerland, not Canada, not India, not Brazil, not Australia, where you have the police exclusively federal. That's wrong. It's against capitalism. So part of the constitutional reform, part of the restructuring is to create state or regional police. That's what you must do so that policing comes down to the local level, people who know the communities. There will also be a federal police force. They get me very clear. One of the reasons There must be a federal police force that is limited to the Federal Capital Territory. And in cases of a constitutional crisis, because some states or regions may be tempted to use their state police in a way that confronts the sovereignty of the Nigerian people, there has got to be an override provision in the national constitution. If you go to the United States, you will see that. United States, 70% of government business is run at the local levels and at the state levels. But the federal government in America is not a weak federal government. It has strong powers, but those powers don't get in the way of the states and the counties. No. So I believe in constitutional restructuring and state police as part of that.
Now, thank you very much. We will be rounding up now, and obviously we've exceeded our time because of the technical issues we did have before. However, I would, oblige us.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would oblige us with to take more questions from the audience. In doing that, please, I beg you, do not exceed 30 seconds so that we take this round of questions, then we can conclude. And to do that, I will take Obiosuje, please, 30 seconds, please. Obiosuje, mute yourself, 30 seconds.
Okay, good evening. Let me go straight. Yes, let me go straight and forget the pleasantries. First one, sir. You ran for elections in 2019, I believe. What would you say, sir, has been your very profound experience, lessons you've learned while going around Nigeria campaigning, and that you think can shape your approach towards the 2023 elections, should you become the candidate of your party? That's one. Two, I think I have never read you anywhere give an opinion concerning the present push for a president of Southeast extraction. I don't know what your opinion has been on it. Do you think it is, I mean, sincerely speaking?
Thank you very much, Obiosuje, please. Thank you.
Three questions.
Please, thank you. Ichiezani, go ahead, please. Thank you, Obiosuje. Ichiezani, go ahead. Are you there? Professor Femi of Olufemilade, again, that's a presidential candidate. Please, Professor, if you're there, lower your hand and ask your question. 30 seconds, Prof.
Okay. You can hear me now clearly, right?
30 seconds, Prof. We can hear you.
All right. What I want to say as a presidential aspirant myself is to the august audience that you have there. I had the response of Professor Moghalu to the question about why he's not a team player, why is he a lone ranger. My appeal to Nigerians is that on your own, do due diligence about the profile of aspirants. And once you make up your mind that this person fits the bill, let us think of how we can support them individually. To stick one next out is not a joke. And the least we can do, if we truly love our country and we want a better country, is to see how we can add value to the aspiration of any of these not so regular aspirants that we think can make a difference. We shouldn't do what we cause them discouragement. I'm not saying they should not be.
Thank you very much, Prof. For some reasons, we can no longer hear you, but that's
Nigerians. They are Nigerians themselves. That's the structure they need.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So obviously that's your colleague there in that race. So let's take the next person, please. Chukwu Dinwo, please. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, Prof. Good evening from here. I'm going to ask you one question. Given the fact that Boko Haram is actually holding the sizable proportion of Nigeria, when you talk about being the president of Nigeria, do you mean the Nigerian map we know, or still the one that has been divided?
Thank you very much for your question. Is that a Nigerian map that you know, or the one that has been divided? Then some may want to know who divided the map. But again, it's left for Prof to do justice to that. And I think, Ifediora, maybe I take that last question, then every other person, sorry, that's the much we can take. Ifediora, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, go ahead. Your 30 seconds starts now.
All right. Prof, in addition to Dr. Damage's suggestion, we understand that, yes, it's not yet election time or campaign time that people should hit the streets. But I think what Dr. Damages was suggesting was you should certainly, engage people in the streets, let them know of your vision or what you intend to do. And I myself, I do call people to ask them if they've heard about you, and they'll say, no, they haven't. And I try to do the talking as much as I can, but you should take the lead. That's my suggestion. So I'm sorry to take us back. My question is, Dele Farotimi posed a question to you in his interview a fortnight ago, and he wanted to know how you intend to pursue this issue of restructuring. Can you give us a breakdown on how you intend to pursue that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that is it. That is the much we can take, everyone. So we now go back to our guest this evening. I will say, Prof, you've had questions. One was from Osuji, who asked you a question on lessons learned, and why does it appear that you keep silent, or he hasn't had you speak on the Nigerian president of Southeast extraction, obviously you also coming from the Southeast. And we had Professor Femi Olufemilade, who also encouraged Nigerians to support whoever they wish to support, and to do that financially and otherwise. Lastly, we also have this question of the Nigerian map, and the last question you have now, Prof. Can you kindly do justice to these questions so that we can wrap up?
Yeah, okay, very quickly, I'll try to be very brief. What lessons did I learn from 2019? The biggest lesson I learned was one, that, protecting the votes is very important. So that comes to electoral reform. And that's why we go back to where we began, why I left partisan politics for a little while to focus on electoral reform. That was the biggest lesson. The second biggest lesson I learned is that elections take place locally at the grassroots. Structures, political structures matter. Not necessarily in the way the traditional parties do it, but you still have to have a structure that mirrors the electoral process. State, federal, big thing at the national level, state, local government, ward, and polling unit. I want to tell you that I don't want to reveal too much of my strategy for the 2023 elections. Let me just say that I'm very focused right now on building a ground game. And it's far more important to me than popularity or fame. That ground game is local in every part of the country. That's what we're doing. So, of course, Nigeria is a very big country. And there'll be a time for advertising so that a lot of people, when you mention the name, they will know. Even now, many people know, but we have 200 million people, my brother. It's not easy. In my village, in this village where I'm sitting, nobody knows Tinubu. Are you going to call Tinubu and tell him nobody knows you? Nobody knows Tinubu here. I can tell you that for a fact. Even Atiku, maybe some people would have heard because he was vice president. So you see, this is a very big country. And it's not easy to, percolate it with a name and a profile in a way that reaches 200 people. But we will try. We have to focus on the electorate, the voting age electorate. And we will do that and my team will work hard to create that name recognition and that momentum. We will do that. We will get there. Right now, I'm focused on the matter of creating structures that are very local everywhere in the country. And we've made far more progress than you might realize. So that's my answer to that question on lessons. Now, on the matter of the president of Southeast extraction, I want to be very, very clear, and I have always been. The matter of, I believe that the most important, I'm running for president because I have a vision for Nigeria. I'm running for president because I have the capacity to be president. and to handle the issues that the president should handle: nation building, national security, national economy, foreign affairs. These are the 4 core functions of a president. And my background, whether in the central bank or in the United Nations, has prepared me very uniquely at a leadership level to bring to Nigeria a modern 21st century presidency that is effective. So I'm not running for president because of where I come from. I want to be very clear. Does that mean that I don't believe in equity and justice? No. The two are not mutually exclusive. Nigeria is a country that has its own uniqueness. In Switzerland, the presidency, the federal presidency, is rotated every 2 years because it's a multi-ethnic nation of French, Italians, Germans, and Romance. You know, about 4. So we can have. The problem with Nigeria is not rotating the presidency. The problem with Nigeria is who you rotate the presidency to. That's what's causing the problem. You rotate to traditional politicians who are corrupt and incompetent, and you expect good governance. No. On the other hand, you know, you cannot say that when you have rotated the presidency to every part of the country, and it's time for you to rotate to one particular zone, at that time, everybody suddenly remembers merit. How convenient. How convenient. You can find merit in that zone. I come from the Southeast. You cannot say that if you make me president, I'm a dunce, I'm an incompetent person. No. So I think you can manage and marry the two. The reason I don't focus on it is because, to be very honest with you, that's not why I'm running, period. And I have no apologies. I'm running on a vision. I'm not running on an ethnic identity. Vote for me because I'm Igbo. No, that's not why I'm in this business. But does that mean that Igbos have no right, like other Nigerians, to aspire to the presidency? No, it doesn't. So that's my answer. What was the next question? The Constitution.
Yes.
Okay, how would I go about constitutional restructuring? The first thing to do is to dust up the various reports that have been created, whether it's the National Conference of Jonathan, whether it's the Abacha Political Conference. Remember that Abacha's constitution included zoning and rotation. Let's not forget that. You know, so these are other things, documents, Obasanjo's own. We'll do it. We'll bring all these documents together and see whether we can create a vision, a platform of the best ideas of all these documents. And then we will set up either some sort of commission to advise on constitution. Remember, the federal government, the president does not restructure the country. It's a legislative function. The president's job is to provide leadership, is to provide mobilization of opinion, if the president believes in it, that will give the National Assembly and the state legislatures the bandwidth to launch such a heavy-duty effort to as restructuring a constitution or creating a new constitution. So, you know, Dele Farotimi, who, you know, bless him, I enjoyed listening to his video, but he wants me to write a constitution. It's not my job as a candidate to write a constitution. I'm sorry. If you feel so much that you have to see a draft constitution, draft one and show me and ask me to adopt it, because that's what you want. This is what I say about setting unrealistic standards for candidates that are new generation politicians. Have you gone to ask Atiku or Tinubu to write a constitution for you? So, you know, I'm sorry, I have to push back at all these, you know, mountainous expectations, because, you know, I am different from the traditional politicians. We have to be realistic as well. So we will set up a commission that will advise the president on constitutional restructuring, and we will send an executive bill to the National Assembly. That's where I'm different from President Buhari. I believe in restructuring. We will send an executive bill with a draft constitution to the National Assembly. As president, I can do that, because that's something you must bring public opinion, different parts of the country, their views must enter that document. You cannot do that as a candidate. But as a candidate, you can say, this is what I believe should happen. And when I get there, I will drive it. So that's my answer on the matter of it. Have I left out anything? I hope I have.
I think so far that's it. And on rounding up on that note, I would say, can you, in putting your concluding thoughts together, what is your view and what will you do regarding the 2014 CONFAP report?
Yeah, it's part of the documents we will look at in moving the country forward. And in proposing an executive bill to the National Assembly. We will look at the confirm. We will look at Abacha's constitution. We will look at Obasanjo's political
Welcome back to another vlog.
commission.
I hope you're...
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Looks like they can't hear me.
We can hear you, Prof. Prof, we can hear you.
Me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was saying that, yes, the 2014 National Conference report and various other reports will be looked at, synthesized. We will then have a commission that will advise the president on how to provide leadership on this matter. And then we go to the National Assembly, whose job it is to begin the process of making new laws or making a new constitution. That's the way I would look at it. An executive bill, yes, you will get that from a Kingsley Moghalu presidency.
Thank you.
So my final thoughts.
Yes.
My final thoughts. Rudolph asked restructuring. How, there's something called, the manufacturing of consent. How do you mobilize public opinion? I would say that virtually every region, every geopolitical zone in Nigeria, or at least a great majority, support constitutional restructuring. As a precedent, you open this matter to public discussion, down to the villages, down to states, down to, I will do as president, a town hall. Every 3 months, I will have a town hall in a different geopolitical zone of this country. As president, I'll take questions, I'll answer them. This is how you get the people to come out. You educate them and get them involved in building their own future. We need this type of leadership that can manufacture consensus. That somebody says, how do you get the buy-in of the National Assembly? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We will apply the fine art of persuasion. Because when I become president, the first meeting you'll have is with the Senate President and the House of Reps Speaker to begin this discussion. How are we going to, you arrive at a modus operandi. You arrive at some sort of understanding as to how we will walk this road about the Constitution of Nigeria. And then you go to the people. And if they support it, the politicians must respond. So I believe that Nigeria needs a transformative president, not the traditional politicians we've had for so long. We need a new generation of leadership that is technocratically competent. Let us support it and stop worshiping traditional parties that have not delivered anything to us. So that's my closing remark. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. It's been a wonderful 1 hour plus conversation here. My guest today, as you all know, has been Professor Kingsley Moghalu, who is a political economist, a lawyer, author, former Deputy Governor CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, and also 2023 presidential aspirant under the African Democratic Congress, the ADC. It has been my pleasure to have you this evening on this one-on-one conversation on the series, on the State of the Nation series here on Njenje Media TV. I am still your host, MaaziEzeoke. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So for those of you here, you may wish to stay, including my guest, if you do have 10 minutes to spare to, we will have a heart-to-heart conversation that is not going to be streamed and it's not going to be recorded. Thank you once more, everyone.